Blue Origin's new Shepard rocket is back on Earth along with its crew after blasting off to the edge of space. Star Trek actor William Shatner was one of the passengers on board this historic spaceflight. He got emotional after the crew touched down in Texas. Shatner said the simulation experience to prepare the crew before the spaceflight did not come close to the real experience.
What you have given me is the most profound experience I can imagine. I'm so filled with emotion about what just happened. It's extraordinary, extraordinary. I hope I never recover from this. I hope that I can maintain what I feel now. I don't want to lose it. It's so much larger than me and life.
I just thought it was absolutely lovely. I can tell from, just watching what people are saying on Twitter, people who were following along were absolutely moved by William Shatner's words. It was one for the ages.
He said that he hopes he never recovers.
He never recovers.
Yeah, he said that he hopes he never recovers from this experience. So listen, I want to bring in Alan Ladwig, who has been with us throughout the morning. He's a senior advisor for Star Harbor Space Academy. You have spent decades and decades working within and around space. And so I really need to get your reaction to the words of William Shatner.
I think it's safe to say he had a transformational experience today. And the fact that he doesn't want to let that go, I can't wait to see his post-flight activities, what he does, how he'll communicate this. Heck, I'll even listen to the new song he's going to write based on this. And I think it's also what is so cool for me was his commentary there. It was so special to be able to hear that. That was what we had hoped would happen through the spaceflight participant program back in the 80s. It wasn't that the astronauts couldn't communicate. My God, they gave speeches, they wrote books, they were very personable. But there was a missing emotional connection, somewhat because a lot of them, especially in the early days, didn't want to admit that they were scared on a flight, didn't come back with the eloquence that everybody thought they should come back with. And Shatner just hit a grand slam with his commentary afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, it was really, I love how you sort of positioned it, Alan. It was this really incredible commentary about just going into suborbital space. So you've been in spacecraft like this. What is the feeling like when you hit that arc that you described and you go weightless for a few minutes? And then what's it feel like when you come rushing back down to Earth?
Well, I've only done it on a parabolic flight, and that's where the plane does these parabolic dips, and you go weightless for about 30 seconds at a time. And it's an exhilarating, a liberating experience to be able to float. The shot that you want, what we used to call the money shot, was you'd position yourself at the back of the plane and shoot forward through the plane like Superman. During the Teacher in Space program, I got to fly with the 10 finalists, and I got this great picture of me carrying one of the 10 finalists, Judy Garcia, in my arms like I was Superman with Lois Lane. It's exhilarating. It's really something to behold, and that's something that people can experience now with a lot less revenue requirements than going into space. And when you do 15 to 17 parabolas, you end up with quite a bit of zero-G time.
So I want to talk a little bit about just how things kind of unfolded in terms of this flight. We haven't talked about the rocket, which I think is also sort of an amazing piece of technology. We saw it land. I know it weighs a lot, but it almost looked like a feather landing there. Everything went exactly right.
Yeah. It was a pinpoint landing. If you saw where, it was supposed to hit the X on that pad, and it did. There's been great achievements and advances in launch technologies, but especially landing technologies. SpaceX has done this very successfully multiple times with their rockets. They've captured them at sea, they've captured on land, and seeing Blue Origin capture this one so perfectly today was very satisfying to see.
So before we sort of end this discussion, as we continue to look at these images, this was the moment that William Shatner stepped out of that Blue Origin capsule to cheers from the crowds, a hug there from Jeff Bezos. And just, he immediately started, Anne-Marie and I remarked how he was sort of overwhelmed. You could see it. I think, Anne-Marie, I was listening to you as we were both sort of watching this together, and you were just like, I think William Shatner is about to get all poetic and philosophical on us because he's just standing there. And I think that would be the feeling, right? That you get off this, you've just experienced something that so few human beings have ever been privileged to experience, and you're standing there. That was that moment. I guess, Alan, the question is, how soon might the price of going into space drop so that, a few more people besides millionaires and billionaires could afford to travel? Remember, it's all relative, right? When the Concorde first was introduced for air travel, that intercontinental travel at that speed was seemingly out of touch for most people. In fact, it was really only businessmen and executives that could take that flight. But, if you look at what the price of the Concorde was back in the 1970s and 1980s, and you think about what a first-class plane ticket costs now, prices have come down, in air travel. And so could we see an average American able to afford a flight to suborbital space in the next 10 years?
Well, as your reporter Bill Harwood said, we're probably years away from that. There's a phasing this will go through. We're in the pioneering phase right now. There's a couple more phases before you get to the mass market phase, where you see people coming on board with their sweatsuits and pajama bottoms. We're some years away from that. And sometimes I get in trouble with my space advocacy friends because they say, oh, you're too negative. It's going to happen sooner. Well, maybe, but I have been studying this for about 30 years, and the announcements of when things are going to happen tend to be down the road. I look forward to the price coming down. I hope these companies can find ways to improve sustainability, safety, reliability, improved operations and turnaround time, and that'll help bring the cost down. And as Bill said, the more times they can fly, the more you can spread out the cost. I just think we're probably a good 5 years away from that happening. But another important thing to watch is point-to-point suborbital flights. And that's kind of an area that hasn't been talked about a lot yet. But that's where one of these, they'll have vehicles that'll go, say, from New York to Japan, suborbitally, point-to-point, and maybe that can help bring the cost down. That's probably a different kind of vehicle.
It would be interesting. I think William Shatner probably won a bunch of people over who were on the fence about it. Can't wait to see that price go down. Alan Ladwig, it has been an absolute pleasure having you here with us and getting your insight and knowledge. If anyone has a Star Trek itch after listening to William Shatner speak, you did a shameless plug for your book, Alan. I'm going to do a shameless plug for Paramount Plus, because you can watch Star Trek starting with Season 1, Episode 1 with William Shatner at Paramount Plus. Just an idea if you feel like you need more space in your life. Alan Ladwig, thank you so much.
Thank you. See you in suborbit.
Thank you, Alan.
You got it.